Hi, Kristen. My name is Erin Smithers. I don't know if you remember, but I called you a little while ago, a few weeks ago, to do I was doing a webinar on assistive technology.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I remember you, of course.
The information you gave was so helpful. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad.
So I was excited to see you on here. So I was like, oh, thank you.
That's awesome. It's good to put a face with a name.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thank you, because you're helping me test out my audio. I'm trying to, I have like 2 computers here, and I'm trying to make sure that I can see the chat and follow all this at once. So since we're a couple minutes early, do you mind being my guinea pig here? I'm going to
not at all.
Screen.
Not at all. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Listen, I got 2 kids at home and they're both on Google Meet. So I'm like anxious about my internet connection. I've been testing it all morning and it seems good, but you just never know.
Yeah.
And they're on like a solid 4 to 5 hours. So.
Oh my goodness.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Luckily, I didn't have to worry about that. My son's just about 2. So.
Okay. Well, you got other worries.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Can you see my screen, my first slide there? Okay.
Yes, I can.
Okay.
And the captions are coming up too.
The captions are. Yay. Okay. That's great. Okay, cool.
It looks good.
Yeah, if anybody else wants to unmute themselves and introduce themselves while we have a couple of minutes, like I would normally want to do that in the beginning of the session, but I'm like probably have 50 minutes of content and 45 minutes to do it. So I've been trimming slides. So if anybody wants to take this time, either in the chat box itself or, just unmuting, I would love that.
Hi, my name is Lola Sims.
Hi, Lola.
How are you?
Good. How's it going? Are you in New Jersey?
Yes, I'm in New Jersey.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, with this being virtual, I'm assuming there's people from all around. So
yeah. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Hi, my name's Karen Maxton. How are you?
Hey, Karen. How are you? Are you in New Jersey as well?
I am.
Nice. North, south, central?
I am in North Jersey. I'm actually
Okay.
and that's, Parsippany.
I live in South Jersey, so like I know of Parsippany, but I don't have a good lay of the land up there.
Our agency used to share an office with you guys in Northern Jersey.
Oh, no way. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. What agency do you work for?
Caregivers of New Jersey.
Oh, yeah. Okay, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm also in Parsippany.
Huh?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm also in Parsippany right now.
Oh,
There you
okay,
go.
neighbor.
Do some networking, ladies.
So where are you in Jersey, Kristen?
I live in Gloucester County.
Okay.
Yeah, like right down the street from Rowan University. So, and I work mostly in this area of the state, but right now because we're doing a lot of things remotely, a lot of trainings remotely, kind of working with people all across the state at this moment in time. So. Anybody else want to introduce themselves? We have 8 minutes to kill, so we might as well meet. If you don't want to, here we have a Rowan alumni. Awesome. Yeah, I literally live probably within a mile of Rowan. So that was my pandemic walking location. I had never really walked through the campus or rode my bike through the campus, and it was super empty and lots of turtles on that little pond. But now there's a lot of uptick in COVID, I think, on campus. So I found new walking routes for the time being. But it's a super awesome campus. It's like grown. I can't even believe how much it's grown in the past 5 or so years. Oh, we have somebody from Ohio. Check it out. That's awesome. I grew up in Western New York, near kind of in between Buffalo and Erie. So my senior class trip was to Ohio, Cedar Park, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Cedar Point?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
live pretty
it
close to there.
was. Yep, we took a bus. Other schools go to Disney World, but we went to the great state of Ohio and we had a blast. So
Cedar Point is definitely fun. I've been there once.
okay. Yeah. You got to check out the roller coasters, right? That's what they're known for. Oh my gosh, we have people from everywhere. Florida, Arizona, North Jersey. Oh, another person that lived in Parsippany. Oh, Minneapolis. All right. Kansas. Oh my gosh, Illinois, this is so neat. Delaware. So if you guys want to share what you do, if you're parents or professionals, OTs, PTs, AT people, I'd love to hear teachers, what you guys do. Oh, it needs permission. Oh, shoot. I might have to work on that. Do you guys, can somebody tell me how to give permission here? I'm more of a PowerPoint person, so I put it in slides as well, just as my backup. Oh.
At the bottom where it says anyone with the link, I think, yeah, change to anyone with the link. I could be wrong though.
I think that's what I have. Let me try copying this link and I'll put it into the chat. See if that works. Otherwise, I will figure that out. Settings are disabled for public links. Okay, that worked. I'm going to just put another link in just while I have a minute. This is the link to it in a PowerPoint format as well. That's actually what I'm planning to use. So I'm going to try to leave my my video on for this presentation unless I have any internet issues. So if you guys hear if I'm breaking up, please let me know.
Hi, Kristen.
Hey, Alexandra, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
How'd your session go? You
It
were
went really
first
well.
up. Yeah,
Yeah, it went
awesome.
really well.
I'm just like crossing my fingers for no internet issues.
Yeah,
I should have requested a 1 o'clock time period because my kids are both on Google Meet right now. But I kicked my husband off. I said, please don't be on a video
one
call.
person at a time. Yeah.
That's right. You know, we have beefed up our network here out of necessity, our internet network. So it's so good to see your face. I love
Yay,
your background.
you too.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks. You too. All right, I'll get my picture off, but just wanted to say hello.
I loved it. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, I'm going to give it one more minute and I'm going to start right on the dots. Hopefully I can get through everything here. All right, I'm getting started, everybody. So welcome to our session. We're going to take our 45 minutes today and talk about time management and organization strategies for students during COVID times. So I just put out there right at the upfront that I am really focusing on students with executive functioning challenges. So really any age. I think, you know, most of this content is applicable really for elementary, middle, high school, and college. So I'm really focusing on that and in the context of remote learning. So that's kind of where I am as a parent and a professional right now. So my strategies are really based around remote learning. So if that's not what you anticipated, I just wanted to kind of let you know right from the get-go. So my name is Kristen Russell. So I'm an assistive technology specialist at Advancing Opportunities. My background is as an occupational therapist. So I worked in, you know, really traditional school OT roles and a long-term care facility. And then I really discovered a love for assistive technology. And I've been focusing just in this area as an AT specialist at Advancing Opportunities since 2006. So it's been a while. Just a quick little intro to Advancing Opportunities. If you're not familiar with us, we're located out of Ewing, but we provide assistive technology evaluations and trainings across the state of New Jersey. So we can do evaluations for students with learning disabilities or physical disabilities, executive functioning. We do home accessibility evaluations fairly frequently, computer access, all of that kind of stuff. We also have 2 speech therapists who do augmentative communication evaluations and trainings. So we work with school districts throughout the state. We work with DVR, which is the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation Services. We work with DVR offices across the state. We work with DDD and DCF and the New Jersey Traumatic Brain Injury Fund. So we really work with people with all types of disabilities, and our website is there. So one quick thing I want to make sure that everybody is familiar with is that we have a technology lending center at Advancing Opportunities. So this is a really great free resource where people across the state of New Jersey can borrow equipment free of charge to test out either yourself or with a family member or with your students. It really doesn't matter. So we have, you know, shelves of stuff at our agency, and we're always purchasing new items. And how it works is you would reach out to us. I put the contact info here for Tara O'Neill, who is our TLC coordinator. There's a link to our TLC website. You would let her know what devices you want to borrow. She would ship them out to you and include a return shipping label so you can ship it back to us with no cost to you. So we are also offering device demos, like remote device demos over Zoom. So there's a link here to a Google form. If there's something that you're interested in, you can fill that out, and we'll be reaching out to you over the next couple of days to schedule a time when we can do a Zoom call with you and show you the equipment. Okay, so my plan for today, guys, I got to have a plan if I'm talking about time management and organization. So we're going to talk about some tools and strategies for a remote learning environment, ways to keep track of your schedule and assignments, managing your time effectively, tips for dealing with procrastination, and for longer assignments. So I chose this topic because I work with a lot of students, you know, both like elementary, middle, high, but also a lot of college students and a lot of new college students. And I've seen this just like over the spring and getting ready for the school year and just hearing their stories about how the spring semester went. This was a real big struggle. I also have am the mom of 2 kids. I have a middle school and a 6th grader and a 4th grader. We are doing remote learning until January 30th at least. So that's like very overwhelming. I'm sure lots of you are in the same boat as well. You know, one of my kids does have some challenges with executive functioning. So I've been just trying to figure out how I'm going to make it all happen and get everything done. And I'm not alone in that. You know, I think a lot of us are in the same boat, but certainly the families that we're supporting and our students, you know, we're all going through this together. So I have this slide called COVID challenges, which, you know, you'll all know about COVID challenges, right? I don't have to explain this, but our students are dealing with less routine and structure than they're used to. You know, there's typically going to be less supports, especially dependent on if the parents or the caregivers are at home, are working, or how available they can be. The students and teachers, I know in most cases, you know, like my kids have never met their teachers have never met them in person. So that's really a big challenge on both ends. And then you add on top of that, there's new ways of doing things. A lot of schools have rolled out new platforms this fall that they weren't using in the spring. And, you know, we're just in a new learning environment. Most of our students are home at least for a bulk of the week. And then you add on top of that the COVID stress and just the uncertainty. And is our school going to stay open, or how anxious our kids are about, you know, getting sick and all of that. It's a lot on our kids' plates. So where there's a challenge, there's an opportunity, right? So, you know, I'm constantly in my own mind just to keep myself positive. I'm reframing this like this is an opportunity. This doesn't have to be all negative. And I think that's a really healthy way for us to kind of, you know, keep our heads in the game, but also to be modeling to our kids and our students. So there really is an opportunity here to be working on independent skills. So thinking about how much time we have, like more than enough time here to be practicing skills because we are home. We're kind of forced into it. And for a lot of families, this is a necessity because the parents aren't able to just sit with their kids, you know, and help them out the whole school day. We need to have some independence going on. So we need to be looking at where there's a lot of human support that's needed and see if we can introduce some tools and strategies to help support in that area. So one like thread through all of this is a huge opportunity for our students to learn a lot about themselves, and that will really serve them for their entire life. So that's really where I'm trying to focus and keep myself. Like this is a super valuable experience for them. We can really get a lot out of it. So at the same time, we have to kind of keep in mind, these are really difficult skills to teach. These are ingrained in your personality and your motivation and your level of self-awareness. So we need to kind of be realistic about it. We can't expect independence in this area for most of our students, but like baby steps in independence. So they're going to need modeling, they're going to need support. And kind of my perspective is like, I can throw out some ideas and strategies and teach them how to do things. But I also know that not everything is going to land. Not all the tools that I'm showing people are going to really take root. Maybe they will, though, in the future. I'm kind of planting some seeds, and I'm hoping that, you know, as students grow and develop and mature and their self-awareness that maybe they do have some of these challenges grows, that they'll be able to revisit some of these strategies. So I think that's a good perspective to take. So another thing that just is like throughout this whole presentation, I just kind of want to bring home is asking our students, you know, what do you think would work? What do you think would help you? And this goes back to, we're teaching them self-assessment. We're teaching them to really think about themselves, like what does work for me? And a lot of our students probably, you know, really haven't had to do that a whole ton. So, so it's also really necessary to talk to them about that because we need them on board. You know, if you just give a student a planner, for example, you know, there's going to be a high percentage of students that aren't going to want to use that planner. They weren't involved in that decision. So we have to be asking them and also being really aware of our biases. I know for me, like my organizational skills are very ingrained, you know, like I feel like my way is the right way probably a lot of the time, but I have to be very aware of that because we're all different. Our brains are all different. Our experiences have all been different and different things are going to work for different people. So we all know that, but I think it's a really important reminder. So my take on this is let's let our kids come up with some ideas. Let's try them, even if maybe we don't think they're like the greatest of ideas. And then let's plan a time to reevaluate and kind of go from there and let them have those experiences to self-assess. So talking about the learning environment, I put a little graphic here of like an ideal ergonomic situation. Now, listen, you know, we're not expecting perfection here, right? We're not expecting families to go out and buy desks and buy chairs and buy monitors. You know, some families have done that. I've seen a lot of great stuff on Facebook, but, you know, we can't expect that that's going to happen. So your positioning in your environment can really have a huge effect on your learning. And like for us as professionals, like working, right? A lot of us are working from home and our environment, I know just for myself personally, has really, it's been something that I have to think about every day. Like, how can I set up my environment knowing that there's other people in the house that I'm not used to being here and they make noise and they interrupt me. That's for sure. So so I have some guidelines here and I'm going to show you some pictures in a second, but I think I've been thinking a lot about, as I see pictures of what other people are doing on Facebook and how people are setting up spots for their children. I think it's great to have a designated spot. It was definitely something we didn't have in our household in the spring, and it showed by like my kids doing their work in bed, you know, and not being super engaged. So I think it is very important to have a designated main work spot. But I think because of the number of hours our kids are sitting in that work spot and they're on a screen, that we need to have some flexibility there. So maybe some designated alternative areas for people to work. So this is my daughter, Anna. She was our model for this. She was very happy to help us out here. So this is just a big chair. This is like one of those oversized executive chairs that, you know, we had in our house. So, you know, my daughter's 9. She's much too small of a body to fit in this chair. So we just tried to modify. We stuck a pillow behind her. I raised the chair because the desk is a standard desk height and it's really too high for her. Her arms were kind of like reaching up for the keyboard, which isn't ideal. So I raised the chair. I put a box underneath her feet just to give her some stability. And I could cover this with a layer of shelf liner that you can find at the store, which kind of acts as like Dyson. So like a nylon slip kind of surface. I put a pillow behind her back, and we had an extra monitor at home, and I was able to connect the Chromebook, which is laying over on the desk, to a larger screen. So this is like a really ideal workspace in my opinion. So some other alternatives here, you'll see she's laying on the floor. So this is a great just stretch, like we've been sitting for 2 hours now. Let's get a different position here. So she's laying on her belly, and the cats love this. The cats had to get right in the picture there. Here she is at a kitchen table. You can see that I've just raised her Chromebook. So it's a little bit more eye level. I just stuck it on a basket, but you could use a box, like a tissue box, for example, would work well. So something just to bring it up eye level so our kids aren't looking down, for hours upon hours. You'll notice that she's not sitting in a standard chair. This is a tilt stool that we had gotten a few years ago that just provides some extra movement. So just some extra ideas there. Standing could be a good alternative too. Here you'll see I just took a random box, again, raise the Chromebook up at eye level, and I'm using just a basic wireless keyboard and mouse connected to a Chromebook. So a lot of our students need a lot of movement, right? And, even in the classroom where maybe there's not a ton of movement opportunities, there's probably less now than normal. I know for my kids, just over the past week of going back to school, they are, legitimately in front of their Chromebook for 4 to 5 hours with, pretty minimal breaks. So building in some movement, especially for our younger kids who need that, is really important. So these are 2 products, and I have links for everything on here. So these are Wiggle Feet, and this is like a bouncy band. So you could do this idea with a TheraBand that's pretty popular in schools, just to give our kids some movement that's also not going to be super disruptive while they're on their Google Meet or their Zoom call or whatever. So those are some good ideas there. Oops, I think I skipped one. Here's a couple of other ideas. I know a lot of schools have these wiggle seats, these cushion. They're really common. If a student is struggling at home and needs some movement, maybe that could be sent home potentially. Therapy balls are great, maybe not during the video call, but a great alternative. This has been a hot item that my kids are fighting over just as an alternative seating. And here's a link to one of those tilt stools. So these are great because they have a heavy base and they're pretty stable, but they allow the kid to kind of move and rock, and there's no back on it. So they're really, their core is really engaged, and they're just able to kind of move as their body needs. Fidgets, I think we're all familiar with fidgets, but I think they're like so much more, even more applicable right now in the remote learning environment. I notice myself, I have been fidgeting a lot while I'm on Zoom meetings, and I think it just helps regulate and focus and, just keep me attending to the task. So this is a great area where we can be giving some suggestions to parents at home. This is not something that money needs to be spent on. There's definitely fidgets laying around a house. So wrapping a pipe cleaner around your finger, around a pencil, attaching Velcro underneath the student's desk so they have just some texture to be feeling. These are great little sliding marbles, fidgets. That's a fun one. And then just like binder clips or like any random little things. I have an AirPod case. That's been my fidget choice lately. It has a good feel about it. So thinking about visual distractions, especially when we have families with multiple kids working in one room, I think this can be really challenging. So I think we need to bring back the study carrel in a big way. So they're super cheap on Amazon, but you can make these. You could go to the dollar store and get like the trifold poster kind of board. Students could decorate them, kind of make them their own. I think that's a great idea. Looking at the visual settings in the device that you're using, if you want to make the mouse bigger, or making sure that, students, especially our younger students, know that how they can zoom in and enlarge things. And I think sometimes it's really going to be important to have a larger screen. I know for me, as a facilitator of my kids' learning at home, as a helper person at home, working on an 11-inch Chromebook and 2 people looking around it trying to read very small text can be really challenging. So, if it's possible, if there's a monitor that can be used, or especially for students who maybe have some amount of visual impairment, a larger screen is going to be pretty important. I think it's really important for students, even young students, to learn how to do a split screen. So I put the Chromebook here. There's a really popular Facebook post going around right now. I just saw on my daughter's Google Meet this morning. Her teacher was showing them how to do this in 4th grade. So it's super important to learn how to do split screen so you can have a Google Doc open and maybe the content you're reading, or your video call and a Google Doc to take notes. So super important. You can do that on most devices. Sound is a huge distraction. This has been my struggle working from home. A lot of people are using headphones to help focus, in on the video call that the student is on. But also noise canceling headphones can be really helpful for asynchronous learning. So those are generally really expensive. I found a pretty inexpensive headset here. This is about, last I checked, it was about $30. So that might be worth the investment, again, especially if you have multiple kids working in one room. That being said, there are some people, my daughter's one of them, who really does a lot better with background noise, which again, that's my bias. I do not. So that's something I have to be very aware of also. So everybody's individual there. I've been recommending quite a bit of white noise apps and Chrome extensions, or just white noise solutions. This is great to use with your headphones, again, when you're doing that asynchronous work. This helps a lot of students focus when there is some background noise and distraction. So, somehow I deleted a word here. The one app is called Rain. This is an app that my daughter has actually been using. She found this on her own and told me about. And it has a little element of the fun factor because it allows you to layer in different sounds. So for students who maybe, they'll respond better if the engagement is a little bit more exciting, that is a good app to check out. So you can layer different sounds. So she layers, for example, a waterfall or a rain sound with a cat purr. She's really into cats right now. So she'll layer those two together and she can mix it up and choose, and it has that little bit of novelty factor. Fighting the temptation to check Facebook, Instagram, email, YouTube, Amazon games, the news. This is like huge, right, for all of us. I think probably a lot of school provided devices are going to have these sites blocked. So that is helpful in itself. However, a lot of our students have their personal devices, and, if they don't have somebody sitting right with them, and maybe they struggle a little bit with the self-control or the impulse control, they might be very tempted, just like we are throughout our workday, to check out during a class and to be going onto different sites. So one thing I think is really important to be teaching students, even very young, if they're old enough to have a device, they're old enough to learn how to turn off notifications, so that they're not tempted. They see that, oh, their YouTuber just posted a new video. So, now I want to go see what it is. So if we can turn those notifications off and kind of cut back as much as possible is helpful. There's the Chrome extension that I've used, especially with older students, high school, college aged, called Stay Focused. It's just a quick little install. And what you can do is program in sites that you want to block, or you can program in time limits. So I set up on my computer, for example, a 15-minute Facebook time limit. When I run out of that time limit for the day, that site is blocked. And if I try to go back into Stay Focused and up my time because I want more time, it tells me I have to come back tomorrow. So of course, students can find some ways around that, right? There's always a way around. So this tool, I think, is really best for students who already have the self-awareness. They already know that, maybe it is difficult. It is a struggle for them to stay focused, and they do have a lot of temptations, but that they want to work against that. They're motivated enough to kind of stick with the program. So it's kind of a fun little tool that you can customize to your students' need. On iPads and iPhones, there's all sorts of tools built in. For the Do Not Disturb, I think a lot of people know that it's there, but if you do like a long touch on that moon symbol, you can customize the settings of Do Not Disturb, okay? So let's say your student is working from 8 to 12, you could click on this schedule button and schedule that Do Not Disturb to turn on from 8 to 12 each day. And then you do have some flexibility there. You can say like allow calls from like my favorites, or repeated calls, like people who call them, repeatedly for a couple of times in 3 minutes or something like that. There is a little bit of flexibility in this tool, but by setting it up and kind of making it automatic, I think it takes some of the decision making out of their hands and will help them focus. For younger students, Guided Access is a really great tool. You could look up a video on this. It's pretty simple to use. So let's say a parent is working from home and needs their kid to do some work in an app. The parent could set this up, and it ensures that the student is going to stay in that app until the time limit goes, or until that the parent is able to come back and disable it. So this would be a great thing for us to be teaching parents, so that they can kind of be juggling their children at home while with their work needs as well. Screen limits on iPads and iPhones can also be really helpful. This is something we use in our house. I have screen limits turned on, so sites are blocked on my daughter's personal iPad, so she's not able to just, get on YouTube at her whim. That would be blocked, but she still has access to messages, for example, so she can send me a text message and say, my internet's not working or I need help, that kind of a thing. So you can have some customization there. So as far as keeping track of assignments, I think this is a really opportunity for modeling. So what I would encourage parents or the facilitator of the learning at home is to check in with the student at the beginning of the day and kind of talk them through how to plan their day, because this is the executive functioning skill of planning that a lot of our students just don't really always have. Okay. And I know for myself, it's been pretty overwhelming to kind of look at all the tasks that a student has to do in a day. So if it's overwhelming for an adult, it's going to be overwhelming for our students as well. So teaching them and kind of modeling to them, okay, what do we have going on today? What are our scheduled calls during the day? Things that we have to do at a specific time. What are some of the non-scheduled things that we need to do? So that asynchronous work. And then what things do I need to be looking ahead? Tests, like say a packet that's due at the end of the week that has, that I need to be working on throughout the week. So kind of stepping them through like what is actually happening today, and then kind of pulling it together in a visual format that they can look. Just for example, one of my kids has a Google slideshow of probably like 8 slides of different work throughout the day, and it contains a lot of directions and just a lot of information. So what we do is kind of go through in the morning. This was the work last week. There's a lot more work this week on her sticky notes. It doesn't fit on one sticky note anymore. But this is just like a real life example of what we did last week. So, there's not a ton of directions on here. It's just like a quick reminder to her of what needs to be done. So you could do this in an agenda book, on a whiteboard, on a Post-it. I saw on Amazon, they have these reusable sticky notes that are really cool. So that's just a really low-tech way to be able to do that. So the student isn't looking at that overwhelming long list of all the directions. So there's some electronic ways that you could do this. So this I think would be great for like middle, high school, college students to be utilizing Google Keep, especially if you're a Google user in a Google district. I love Google Keep. If you haven't used it, it's very simple. Kids will learn it very quickly. So, grab a YouTube video on it. You'll learn it in probably 5 minutes. So here on my screenshot, I have the side of a Google Doc. So if you look on the right side, when you have Google Docs up, you'll see these little buttons over here. So these are to other Google tools. So here would link out your calendar. This one right here with the yellow light bulb is Google Keep. So when I click that, it opens up Google Keep on the left side. So it's just like a column on the left side of my screen. So basically it looks like a sticky note, right? So I could click on this plus and start a new note. I can have check boxes, I can change the color, I can add a reminder, but this is a really great way for students just to kind of keep track of things on their own as well. So let's say the teacher says, okay, change of plans, we're gonna do this chapter today instead. The student can just real quick come on and add that to their to-do list. And it's kind of fun because you can check it off and you can see what's completed. Another great option is the Reminders app on iPads and iPhones. Works very similar. The great thing is here, you can add a reminder to each individual entry here. And if students happen to have an Apple Watch, works really well with that as well. So they'll get the alerts on their watch. There are also some homework digital planners. So these are cross-platform. You could really use them on any type of device, whether it's Chrome, your iPad, Android phone, whatever it is. You have an account, so everything is synced together. It's free. This is a free tool. There is a paid version to remove the ads, but you can really do what you need for free. So this is a tool that's really designed just to keep track of homework. So I've used this a lot with like high school students who maybe, you know, their ELA teacher posts, you know, here, and their physics teacher is posting here, and each class is kind of posted in a different place, and we need a way to bring it together. So this is a way that you can put in your classes, put in your assignments, kind of sort them out chronologically. What I really love is that it has a late list, so students can really easily see what is late. So very easy to use tool that I would recommend as well. So at the end of the day, just like we kind of started as a meeting, we can end the day. Okay, let's kind of like wrap up our loose ends. I'm sure some of you do this in your workday, but this is a skill that we can really teach our students. So what didn't we finish? What questions do we have that we didn't, you know, get answers to today? What do I need to remember to do tomorrow? Let's jot that down somewhere. So in the morning, it's fresh in our minds. You know, we can just kind of not waste a lot of time trying to recall what's going on. So I've been loving this new concept of a Kanban board. This is relatively new to me, but this is a strategy that I definitely will. Oh, I just see a question. The homework digital planner, if you, let me back up here. Oh, I didn't put a link in there. I meant to put a link. I'm going to try to remember to do that. If you just Google My Homework Student Planner, you will find it. You can install the Chrome extension. If you look in the App Store and Google it, you'll find it really quickly. This is what it looks like, but I'm making a mental note here to add that link in. Sorry about that. So the Kanban board is super cool technique, I think, especially for younger students or students who are really struggling and need a much more interactive way of keeping track of what they need to do. So here's a video I linked here, but I just took a screenshot. So this is somebody who's taken painter's tape to make this grid, and you make 3 columns: to do, in progress, and completed. Or I've seen it: to do, doing, done. Okay, so we're writing the different tasks that the student needs to do on Post-it notes. Okay, and then the student is physically moving them to the in progress or the doing column, and then physically moving them to the done. So you could do this on like the student's wall. You could do this on one of those like poster presentation trifold boards. I saw a video of somebody who did that, and it folds up at the end of the day, and the student just sticks it next to their desk. This could be also like on the study carrel thing as well. So it's just a very concrete. Students love the Post-it notes, and just moving them, I think, has a real concrete satisfaction. It also just gives a really good visual, like you can just quick look up and be like, okay, this is where things are in progress. I'm actually thinking about making myself a Kanban board just to keep track of all the students that I work with and kind of see where things stand. So these are just example columns. You can customize this, make more columns if you need. I linked a video down here of a college student who's using this. She has a specific test column. So this is flexible, but very concrete. So I did see in the session I went to this morning by Lisa Warren on Jamboard, she had an example of this in Jamboard. So that made me think you could totally do this electronically as well. You could do this in Slides or Google Docs or wherever. And this started out, in this video, it started out at Toyota and is used a lot by like software developers, apparently. The other cool thing that I saw is like students, when they're completed, they can go and put an emoji or draw something on their completed or mark it a certain color to kind of let the teacher know like how it went for them, or give a little bit feedback on how that, how they did or how they felt about it. My phone's ringing off the hook today. So visual timers are incredibly helpful during this time period. Time timer, if you're not familiar with it, is a really great resource for time timers in any fashion. What I'm totally loving right now is this whiteboard here that has a little slot that the actual physical timer fits into. I think this would be such a great tool for families of younger students who are needing to be devoting some of their time to work, so they could write 1, 2, 3, you know, depending on how much the student can do at once, tasks that they want the student to set the time limit and say, when the timer goes off, you come back and find me. So a really good way to just like structure a small amount of time. I personally use this all the time. I'm actually using it right now. This is like a knockoff time timer that I got on Amazon that was maybe $20. You just set it for the specific time you need. So for this presentation, I set it for 45 minutes. I just keep it off to the side. I'm glancing at it periodically just to see like, okay, am I on track? About how much time do I have left? So this is great for students who, even if they can tell time, it's, for students who maybe that isn't super ingrained in them, to say, oh, it's 10:15, I have a half an hour, that would be 10:45. This can just give them a real quick idea of how much time they have. So you could use this. I've used this with my daughter for getting out of the house in the morning when we were going to school, knowing how much reading time she has, giving her time limits for a break. There's 1,000,001 applications you could use this for. Okay, so built-in alarms in most of our devices. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this, but my point in sharing this slide is I think it's important that we teach kids how to use this, how to use these tools that are in their devices. So when you're setting an alarm, this is a screenshot from an iPhone. It's very important that we're labeling things. So when the alarm goes off, it doesn't just say alarm, for example, and we don't know what it's for. So my son, who's in middle school, went through, I showed him how to set alarms for each of his class periods. He's following a bell schedule. This is totally new to him. It's his first year in middle school. Sometimes the teachers are letting them off early, so he has a little bit more time. It'd be very easy to just kind of forget or not remember the time or get caught up in something else. So, so those are good things to know too. For students who just have access to a Chromebook, there is a Chrome app. This doesn't seem to be built in to Chromebooks. This is something that you would have to install, but really basic timer. You could go in and choose your days of the week, set things to repeat, and put in a student's schedule there as well. For students who need a little bit more support, I'm often recommending reminder tools, okay? So, or wearable reminder tools. So for students who have an Apple Watch, we could definitely leverage that Apple Watch by having some reminder alerts going right to their wrist so they're not easily missed. The Watchminder over here on the right side of the screen, this has been around for a really long time. It's a pretty low cost reminder method. So we can go in and set different reminder alerts for different time periods, and it would say a little something on the screen. So here you see it says pay attention. So that's a really easy tool to get off the ground. The Revibe Connect is a newer tool that I see advertised a lot on my Facebook feed. It seems to be a very basic, simplified kind of smartwatch thing without a lot of distractions. So you can go in and program different reminders alerts to vibrate on the Revibe. You could also have it do periodic reminder kind of alert notifications just to help a student who just remind them to focus. If anybody has personal experience with that, I'd love if you share that in the chat. That's something that I'm always kind of looking at and kind of wondering, what people's experiences are. So I'd love to, if you could share your feedback on that. For those students who have Amazon Alexas, you can do so much with these devices from a time management, organization, time frame. So just a couple of things that I would just want everybody to know about. If a person is using a Google Calendar, an Apple Calendar, or any common calendar app, you can go into your Alexa app and set up calendar access. Okay, so I use the native calendar app on my iPhone. I've set up calendar notifications, so I get reminders of anything on my calendar 30 minutes before the event. And because I've connected my calendar to my Alexa, I will hear Alexa announce my calendar reminders. So this is super helpful for me just personally, and I think could be very helpful for a lot of students just to hear. It's like that extra, if you happen to miss your notification on your phone, which is very easy to do, it's just an extra auditory thing going on in the house. Timers are great. I think a lot of people are familiar with that. I think also a lot of people are familiar that you can set alarms on the Alexa, but you could also set repeating alarms. So again, this would be a use of, we can set them for a class period times to make sure our students aren't forgetting to go to class. Similarly, you can set reminders and repeating a reminder. Some examples that I thought of are remind me to check my email at 7:30 a.m. every day. Okay. Remind me to pack my Chromebook at 7:30 every weekday. Okay. So that would be an announced at that time every day, just as a helpful tool for the student. This is great because it's not the parent always having to say, there's a lot of additional stress on parents these days. So if we can leverage Alexa, who's always going to be patient and always going to say it in the same tone of voice, to be taking some of the burden off parents, it's also helpful for them. So one last thing that I found the other day is that you can actually turn on send notifications to my phone. If you go into the Alexa app, into settings, and into the reminder setting specifically, you can turn this on. So when there's a reminder, not only will you hear it, but it sends a notification to your phone. So super helpful, because let's say you're in the bathroom and you don't hear your Alexa announce a reminder, you could very easily miss that. So that's super helpful. So I do see somebody shared that the Revive was not successful for us, too basic. Would be nice if it could be masked as a watch for a sensitive kid. So thank you for that feedback. So procrastination strategies, I think a lot of us struggle with this, right? And it's a really dangerous cycle because, a lot of times it's happening because people are overwhelmed and they're anxious and they don't really know what to do and they're worried they're not going to do it well. So it just kind of goes over and around and around and around. So our students with executive functioning challenges, that task initiation, it can be really challenging. Remaining focused to work on a hard task is hard. Finishing the task, that's also hard. So I think the first step is that self-awareness piece, okay? If the student is not self-aware that this is happening, if they're not acknowledging it, it can be a really hard thing to tackle. So a couple of strategies for that are the strategy of clarity. So I tell people all the time about this podcast. I'm a huge podcast listener. Shout out to Alexandra, who's my other podcast friend on here. This podcast called Gretchen Rubin. I'm going to put this in a link in the Google Doc resource as well. It's called Happier with Gretchen Rubin. Gretchen Rubin has written a lot of books. And while she's not an AT person at all, a lot of her strategies are super relevant, especially for time management, organization kinds of things. So she talks about the strategy of clarity. Like if you're not doing a task, like step back and think, why am I not starting this task? Okay, so this is a good thing. I mean, it sounds super basic, but I think I have found so many applications in my own life. So taking a step back and asking the student, like, what is exactly going on? And having them kind of just like think through, why am I not getting started? So students, like I've had this happen where students are just like, I don't really understand the directions. Okay, so now we know what to do. We need to talk to the teacher. I don't know how to log into this website I need to log into. Well, that's something we can fix, right? Now we can work something. I'm struggling to get through, like this material is way too long. I don't like reading is hard. Now we can say, okay, maybe there are some other tools to support you. Maybe there's some other strategies. So really thinking about the roadblock that's before us. So this is like a little quote that I always think about. The antidote, and I probably need to explain to a lot of students what antidote mean to anxiety is action. So if I'm feeling anxious about something, I need to start it in some small step and it'll help. So the other strategy is the strategy of your future self. So thinking about, I'm going to be so happy on Friday when I'm done with this big assignment and I have the weekend to do what I want. Or I'm going to be so happy when I pass this class and I don't have to take this math course again. Or just think about myself in 2 years when I have my associate's degree and I get a job and I'm making money and I move out of my own. So kind of thinking, okay, what is the long term? Like, let's focus on the long-term goal here instead of getting hung up. And I put this picture because I always feel like, sometimes when we have a big project ahead of us, students feel like they're about to climb a mountain. Okay, so the Pomodoro Technique is a really great technique. I use it all the time myself personally, but I think it could be applicable for any age group. So the basic premise of this technique is that a person would choose a task, okay, one of those overwhelming tasks this would be great for. You're going to work solely on that task for 25 minutes. If 25 minutes is too much, it's a little kid, you can totally bump that down to 15 minutes. Solely working, you're not going to get a drink, you're not going to get a snack, you're not looking at your phone, nothing, focused. After that timer goes off, you take a 5-minute break and you jump back in and you do another Pomodoro, your 25-minute time period. So you can do a couple of cycles and then take a longer break. So why this really helps is if you are a student that's overwhelmed and you have to do 40 social studies questions at the end of your chapter, and that feels like impossible. If now you're committing to 20 minutes or 25 minutes, that's so much more manageable of a task. Okay. So I use this strategy when I'm sitting down to write a report. I know it's a hard one. It's going to take me a really long time. I will just say, you know what? I got to set my visual timer, which is almost out of time, and just get started. And then you kind of get a little flow, or at least you feel a little bit of that anxiety go away because you've done something. You've broken the ice. So a great little app, that I've started using is called the Forest app. Maybe some of you have heard it. There's an app and a Chrome extension. And basically you go and you start, there's a 25-minute timer in it, which you can adjust, and you start it. Let's say I start it on my phone and I'm trying to get some work done, and I start my timer and my tree starts to grow from a seed. Okay. The goal is that you're trying to grow a tree and ultimately grow a forest. If I go to my phone and I go to swipe out of my Forest app because I want to go check my email, I'm getting a notification that says, if you leave this app, if you don't go right back to the app, your tree is going to die. And I don't want my tree to die, right? That just feels sad, even though it's like not even a real tree. But that is like a little bit of accountability and just like a check, like it's almost like your teacher just tapping on your shoulder being like, get back to work, come on. So that is a little bit fun. It's gamified. You can earn coins and move to different levels and that kind of thing. So accountability is another really essential strategy for different people, some people more than others. So trying to find ways to build in accountability. If your student really has the desire to follow through and complete their work, but is really struggling to actually make it happen. So building an accountability with another student, like, let's say if we both get this assignment done by Friday afternoon, we're going to go to the movies, which is a terrible example right now during COVID, but we're going to go do an outdoor socially distanced activity together. That's fun because we're done with our work. So the other student is counting on me. My friend is counting on me. Scheduling a time to check in with your teacher or your tutor to go over a rough draft is a really excellent strategy because you're going to have to get your rough draft done. Otherwise, you're going to have to tell your teacher that you didn't do it. So coaches and team sports are great at providing accountability as well. So thinking kind of out of the box, how can we add in accountability where there might not naturally be some? That helps a ton. So real quickly here at the end, talking about big assignments, these can be really overwhelming. So the analogy that I like to say to students is we have to break it down like a pizza, which this pizza looks amazing. You're not going to just eat the whole pizza in one, you're not going to pick up a whole pizza and just eat it instantaneously. You have to do it a slice at a time. Okay. So this is where we really need some human modeling by a parent, a tutor, a teacher, whoever it is, to say, okay, here's the big assignment that you have. Let's figure out what are the little pieces, what are the individual slices of pizza that we need to tackle one at a time. So listing those out can be really helpful. What I like to do is print out, you can just download like free monthly calendar printable pages off the internet, print those out and just have a printable monthly calendar just for that one assignment. Okay. And you can put date deadlines, like by this time I want to have done my research. By this time I want to have a rough draft done. Oh, there's my timer. I'm just about done. I have a last thing to show you here. This is a really great resource for an assignment calculator. So this is definitely geared more towards, I would say, high school or probably even more so college. And here's a couple screenshots. What it does is it allows you to put in a start date for an assignment and an end date for an assignment. And when you hit calculate, it automatically generates, based on the dates you put in, your dates that you need to get assignments done for. So if you see here, September 15th, I should understand my assignment and select my topic. By this date, I should have a thesis statement written. Okay. If I don't know how to write a thesis statement, I don't exactly remember what that is, here are links below that are going to bring me to other websites to explain that. And it, kind of just breaks it down for someone. Obviously, you can tweak that as needed, but then I would take that, at least that's something to get somebody started with, and transfer that onto some calendar. This would also be a great use for that Kanban board, okay? The one with the different columns with the Post-it notes. Take this, put a Post-it note for each task, and the student can be moving the Post-it notes along as needed. Okay, guys, that was my last slide. So I think I probably have a couple of minutes before they kick me out of here. So if anybody has any questions, feel free. If you want to unmute, or you can type them in. Somebody else shared about the Revibe watch with this. They tried the Revibe watch. The vibration has a different pattern each time, so it caught his attention. Oh, that's really good feedback to know. It worked in the classroom better than during independent. Wait, it worked in the classroom better during independent than whole class work. Okay, so I could see that then being maybe applicable to remote learning. If we're just trying to keep our students on task and the teacher isn't there to kind of say, okay, let's get back on task. Okay, good. I don't see any other questions. So I posted, let me get out of my presentation. I did post in the Google Doc that was set up. I did post some information, and I posted a link to the presentation here. And if anybody has any difficulty accessing that, I put my contact information. If you email me, I'll definitely email it out to you. And there's links in there, right in the presentation, that you should be able to click on to see any information. But I'd also love, I'm sure all of you have your own organizational strategy. So if anybody wants to share anything, if they have a great idea, I'd love to hear it. So unmute yourself and share it, or type it in the chat. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for listening to me all this time. I appreciate it. I wish you all luck during the school year. I think, yesterday was a tough day in my house as the first day of our real schedule. It's a lot of stuff, very overwhelming. And I think we just have to take it one day at a time and just teach that to our kids, right? Yes, love Google Keep. Awesome. Okay. So thank you guys so much for coming out. Have a good one, everybody.